That night, the village of Obioma did not sleep. It listened. The sky was empty, no moon, no stars. Thick mist covered the land, and the mud houses stood quietly, like graves that could breathe. No dog barked. No insect made a sound. In Obioma, silence was never a good sign. The elders sat outside their huts, wrapped in cloth and fear. Their voices were barely louder than the wind. "The forest is awake tonight," Elder Enduka whispered. Another elder shook his head slowly. "No, it is angry." At the far end of the village stood the sacred forest. It was not like other forests. Its trees were tall and twisted, as if they had grown in pain. The leaves were so dark they swallowed light. For generations, no human foot had stepped inside. There was an ancient agreement. Every month, the villagers brought offerings: a white fowl, a native egg, kola nut, and alligator pepper. They placed them at the edge of the forest and ran without looking back. They believed that if the forest saw your face, it would remember you. But Chinedu was different. While others locked their doors and whispered prayers, Chinedu stood near the forbidden path. He was young, but his eyes were deep and thoughtful. He did not feel the fear that ruled the village. Instead, he felt a pull. When he closed his eyes, the forest was not silent. It beat like a drum in his chest. He could hear roots moving beneath the soil, humming an ancient song. Then the air changed. A sharp, cold wind swept through Obioma. It smelled of wet stone and old earth. Trees bent violently. Birds disappeared. Dogs crawled under beds. The elders fell to the ground in fear. "The forest is angry," they cried. Near the forest edge, the wind whispered one name: Chinedu. The sound did not touch his ears. It entered his mind. Mist curled around his legs like invisible hands. The white fowl trembled on the ground. Without thinking, Chinedu stepped forward. He crossed the forbidden line. The village vanished behind him. The trees closed in tightly. Thick roots rose from the ground, blocking his way back. The air was cold and heavy, filled with unseen power. A deep voice shook the forest. "Who walks in the house of the silent?" She appeared from the darkness. She was taller than the trees. Her skin shone like polished wood, and her eyes burned like fire. Shadows wrapped around her like a royal robe. The spirit of the forest. Chinedu fell to his knees, his body trembling, but he did not look away. In her power, he saw something else: loneliness. "I am Chinedu," he said softly. "I did not come with fear. I came with respect." He lifted the kola nut and alligator pepper with both hands. "Not the blood of a bird," he said, "but the heart of a son." The spirit reached out and touched his forehead. Light filled his vision. He saw the forest standing as a shield around the village. He saw sickness stopping at the border. He understood the truth: the forest was never an enemy. It had always been a protector. The wind softened. The ground grew calm. "The covenant is renewed," the spirit said. The roots slowly moved aside. Chinedu walked out of the forest as the first light of morning touched Obioma. The elders were still praying, unaware that the danger had passed. He stood at the edge and looked back one last time. The forest was silent again, peaceful and watchful. From that day on, Obioma slept without fear. Not because of wars or rituals, but because one boy was brave enough to listen. And sometimes, when the wind passed through the trees, it sounded like a drum, beating in quiet gratitude. Morning came fully to Obioma, but the village did not wake the same way it always had. People stepped out of their huts slowly, confused by the calm. The air felt lighter. The usual heaviness that lived near the forest was gone. Even the elders noticed it. "The wind feels clean," one woman said. "Yes," another replied. like rain that washes fear away. They soon noticed Chinedu standing at the forest edge. Alive. Unbroken. Changed. The elders rushed to him. Some cried. Others touched his shoulders to be sure he was real. You crossed the line, Elder Enduka said in disbelief. And you returned. Chinedu only nodded. He did not explain everything. Some truths were too heavy for many ears. From that day, the villagers watched Chinedu closely. They noticed how animals no longer avoided him. Birds rested near him. Children felt safe around him without knowing why. And the forest. It changed too. The trees no longer bent toward the village in anger. At night, the silence felt peaceful, not threatening. Sickness became rare. Travelers passed through Obioma safely. Crops grew stronger. The elders understood at last. The covenant had never been about fear. It had always been about respect. They stopped running from the forest. The offerings were still made, but now with calm hearts and thankful prayers. No one spoke loudly at the forest edge, not out of terror, but out of honor. Chinedu, he grew into a quiet man. He did not become a king or a chief. He became something greater. A listener. Whenever the wind moved strangely through the trees, he would pause. Whenever the ground felt restless, he would stand still. And the forest listened back. Years later, elders would tell the children. The sacred forest does not harm those who respect it. It only tests those who refuse to listen. And on certain nights, when the sky was dark and the village was silent, the forest would beat softly like a drum. Not in warning, but in remembrance of the boy who crossed the line and came back with truth.